Hey guys, this is Upesh from Beebom.com, and last year when the Redmi Note 9 Pro arrived, I remember saying this here is the brand new Redmi Note 9 Pro. And well, as the title gives away, I have kind of mixed feelings around this new smartphone. And that's because I felt the Redmi Note 9 Pro did not exactly live up to the expectations. Now the Redmi Note 10 Pro has arrived, and from the looks of it, it does seem to live up to all of the expectations, all the hype. I mean, we have the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max here, and this is one feature-packed phone with one small problem which I will talk about. So yeah, let's check out the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max. Okay, so this is the new Redmi Note 10 Pro Max in all its glory, and honestly I wanted the blue or the bronze variant of the phone because those look really premium with their frosted glass matte back. I mean, even the Redmi Note 10 which we have in white looks absolutely gorgeous, but we have the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max in black and the color is called Dark Night Black. And while I would have liked this in a matte finish, there's no doubt that this is a premium looking phone. But there is one thing, it's that the camera bump is kind of weird. I mean, it's weird because there are actually two levels of bump. So as you can see, the first bump is for the flash and the autofocus sensor, I guess. And the second layer on top of that is for the camera sensors. Now these bumps mean that the phone does not remain stable on a table. You just can't use this phone placed on a surface. Now moving to the front, which is where the big upgrade lies. We finally have an AMOLED display on the Redmi Note. Yes, we've been wanting this for years and it's finally here, and it's not your regular AMOLED panel. This has got all the specs that you can think of. So this is a Super AMOLED panel from Samsung. It has the 120Hz refresh rate, HDR10 support because it has 1200 nits of max brightness, 100% DCI-P3 coverage, 4.5:1 contrast ratio, and to round things up, Gorilla Glass 5. I mean, the specs of this display are fantastic. I mean, the specs of the display here are quite similar to what you get on the S21 and the S21 Plus. And honestly, when I first heard that the Redmi Note 10 Pro is coming with a 120Hz AMOLED display, it was kind of mind-boggling because with this, the Redmi Note 10 Pro and Pro Max kind of trump the Mi 10i, the Realme X7, and even the higher priced OnePlus Nord. Anyway, the display quality here seems to live up to all those numbers. It's set to 60Hz by default, but I obviously changed it to 120Hz, and it just feels so smooth, be it the animations in MIUI or the scrolling. It's awesome really. As for the display quality, this seems like a good AMOLED panel. It has all the AMOLED goodness, of course, and it's bright too. Now I've only used this for 2 days, but so far, yeah, seems good. Also, unlike a lot of Redmis in the past, this one does not have any issues with Netflix and Prime Video HD playback, so that's good. Anyway, coming back to the design, there's one thing that I've noticed, that this time the Redmi Note isn't crazy heavy. I mean, it's slimmer than last year's Pro Max at just 8.1mm, and Xiaomi has managed to make this lighter too, as it weighs only 192 grams, which is awesome because this is the big Pro Max and it feels great in the hands. And you know what? This makes me think that the Redmi Note 10 Pro should feel even better. Now, the in-hand feel aside, the design has everything we expect from a Redmi Note. So there's the IP52 rating, USB-C port, headphone jack, IR blaster, dual SIM plus microSD dedicated slot, a side-mounted fingerprint scanner which is fast and brings additional functionality too. So you can now double tap on the fingerprint scanner to do a number of actions. As you can see, you can take a screenshot, turn on torch, and do more. Apart from that, there's dual speakers now, one on the bottom and one on the earpiece here. And let me just play some music. And so far the speakers sound loud and there's a lot of depth as well, which is interesting. So that was the design and the display. Now another big thing about the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max is obviously the cameras. The phone brings the 108MP Samsung HM2 sensor in the sub 20K segment, along with the new 5MP super macro lens, an 8MP ultra wide sensor, and the usual 2MP depth sensor. Now the 108MP sensor is what's been getting all the hype, and I get it really. I mean, I've seen the sensor do really well on the Mi 10 flagships as well as the Mi 10i, and I've been taking some photos from the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max because, you know, I was excited to see the 108MP sensor in action. And good lighting, some of the shots are just brilliant when it comes to details and colors. I mean, these photos look good, right? In low light, I did find the camera perform a little inconsistent. I noticed some focusing issues and there was some shutter lag as well. But it's only been 2 days of using this phone, so I will check if this is actually a big deal in the next few days. I'll also be comparing the 108MP camera to other phones in this price range in our review, so stay tuned for that. There's also a new 5MP super macro lens. Now I generally find these 2MP, 5MP macro lenses practically useless, but this seems kind of fine because in my short testing, it actually seems to take fairly good macro shots, as you can see. Now, I'm still not sure about micro lenses usability in smartphones, but at least this works. There's also the 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, which does kind of an okay job. I mean, for a phone at this price, it does a decent job with the colors and photo quality. But yeah, it obviously cannot match the details or the richness of the photos from the main camera. On the video front, there's 4K 30 FPS support, and here's a video shot from the Note 10 Pro Max. Now, the video looks good when it comes to colors and details, but the stability isn't very good, and that's probably because EIS isn't working in 4K here. Now, the cameras apart, like I said, there's one small problem. Well, emphasis on the small because I'm talking about the fact that the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max has a Snapdragon 732G chipset. That's also part of the Poco X3, and it's an upgrade from the 720G on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. And that's fine because even though this offers slightly lesser performance when compared to the 750G or Dimensity 800U, it's still a fairly powerful chipset. Now, the problem here is that the one thing it lacks is 5G support. Now, I know 5G is still far away in India and it's not a big deal, and that's the reason I'm saying it's a small problem. But you know what? It's something to note for people who use their phone for 2-3 years or even more. Also, the Mi 10i and the Realme X7 bring 5G support at a slightly higher price, so that's something to note as well. Anyway, as for the 732G, the Note 10 Pro Max feels really smooth and nice. And while it sort of lags behind the 750G and 800U in terms of benchmarks, I'm more interested in the real world performance because the difference in benchmarks isn't that huge. I mean, so far the phone has been lag free and smooth, gaming is great too, so yeah, it's positive so far. When it comes to the software, there's MIUI 12 with Android 11, and Xiaomi has confirmed that the MIUI 12.5 update is coming soon. So yeah, it's kind of the usual MIUI, and if you're wondering about any ads or bloatware, well, I have seen app recommendations in the app vault, but I haven't come across any ads yet. As for the bloatware, it's not a lot. Along with the usual Xiaomi apps, you get Facebook, Prime Video, LinkedIn, Netflix, and Amazon, all of which can be uninstalled, which is the good thing. Lastly, there's the battery. The Note 10 Pro Max has the same big battery from last year, along with 33-watt fast charging, and I will be testing out the battery and charging in the next few days. Okay, so time to conclude things. So coming to the pricing, the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max starts at Rs 18,999 for the 6GB 128GB variant, which is like a price bump of 1,500 rupees over the Redmi Note 9 Pro Max, which was priced at Rs 17,499 for the 6GB 128GB model. Honestly, I think the price bump is fine because everything about the phone is upgraded. But you know what? There are still a few questions around the phone. I mean, if you look at the competition, the Mi 10i brings a 120Hz IPS LCD plus 5G. The Realme X7 brings 60Hz AMOLED plus 5G, and the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max brings 120Hz AMOLED plus 4G. So which direction you should be going for? Also, I'll be telling you about the camera performance versus the competition, carrier aggregation, and our review will also give you a good idea of the Redmi Note 10 Pro, which is priced lower, but it's the same as the Pro Max, but for a 64 megapixel camera. So yeah, the point is, you should wait for our review before you buy the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max. Well, comment below if you have any questions regarding the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max or the Redmi Note 10 Pro. Just comment down below and we'll answer them in a full review. Also, give this video a like, share it, subscribe to our channel for more amazing tech videos. Well, that's me signing off. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.